Okay, so hi everyone. We've got this export tweaking pro feature, which I haven't made a video for, which I'm doing now, which is what I would like to explain. And it's a little bit technical, so please bear with me. But what it does is really smart. Okay, so first of all, as a pro member, you got access to this plugin and you will install it. And it will look like this: Component Builder Export Compiler version 1.0.1. Make sure you got the latest version. There was a few bugs in the previous one. It's been fixed. Okay, so now you need to activate it in two places, and the component on which it applies has to have a number of aspects in place for it to actually work. First, let's see the first place you need to look at. Plugins. So you go to plugins, and in plugins you scroll until you find this Component Builder Export Compiler plugin under extension types. Okay, you can open this. This is probably the best choice. Just open it, and you'll see that it has some options here. Now, you may not want this plugin to fire on every component where it meets the requirements. You may want to have the plugin only fire or run upon a selected few components, and that's what this select option is for. Then you can select the components you want to target, and it will only target those components. I'm leaving it to all here because that should do for our purpose. Then it has this add strict permission per field. Now, those of you that know, JCB has this option to have permissional structures upon field layer. So you can decide whether someone can access, view, or edit a field in a view, not just access a view itself, but even the layer down to the field level. Now, this works well when you open a page or when you have the view set to the front end of the site, and editing, you can control the editing access and the view access quite well in the edit area of the actual view. But it's not that strict. What that means is it actually still returns the values to the form XML, and there is a probability there that it could get leaked. So this strict permission literally empties the value completely, so that it doesn't even closely come to the front at all. It forces it to be removed. This is the strict option, and it's much more secure, of course, and it implements it not only in the view area but in the export area as well, so that you cannot export a value to which you do not have access, a specific column, which therefore be a field in any view. So that's the permissional switch. There is another layer of functionality here which is not obvious, which is the option to translate all IDs to actual words. So let's say you have a selection, a list field, okay, and you have a value 1, 2, 3, and maybe 1 is yes, and 2 is no, and 3 is global. And if you export that view, then you get a 1 or a 2 and a 3 in that column. With this option, this Component Builder Export Compiler, it adds the feature to the component that you can change in the global settings of the component, so that it actually exports global yes or no. It doesn't only export an ID or a number. Even if it's from another table, it grabs the actual text which has the relationship in the field. So if it's a list field, it grabs that visible text from the database instead of the ID, which is powerful in terms of usability. Okay, so that's what the plugin does. Now let's show you this in action. So I'm going to enable it here and leave it this to be yes and save and close. Then I'm going to be going to Component Builder And in Component Builder, go to Options. Then in the Global tab, go to Active Compiler Plugins and make sure to select that plugin. If it doesn't show up, probably you didn't activate it in the plugins area. So you need to activate it here as well and save and close. At this point, nothing has really happened. You've just turned on the plugin, and only upon the next compiling of a component that has export functions as well as permission structures on its fields, this plugin will add a whole lot of new code to sort of control the behavior that I just explained before. So I'm going to go to the code now, and I know this is where I usually lose most of you, and please bear with me, but it's the only way I can make this clear to you what happens. The component we are going to compile is Joomla component, Member Manager. Because Member Manager has fields that have permissions on it, and it has fields that needs to become text, which instead of just IDs. If we now open the member managers, so I go to Administrator Components, Member Manager, and I open the members model, not controller, but model, this one. Then we would see this document that I've got open here. And it looks like it would usually look like. So there's nothing strange here now. It has this export data and literally just grabs everything from the database and gives the whole set. It removes items, that means specific tables, rows to which the user doesn't have access, but it doesn't deal with any of the fields, as you can see here. It actually just converts them, decrypts them, literally gives all the data out. This has always been the case, and that's why you've always had to be careful to who you give access to export data. And the same goes here with okay, well, that's actually it. So that feature we looked at here, the get export data, this is the one that's going to be massively improved, as well as this function here, which is the get items. So that in both areas it will massively improve security and functionality. Okay, so this is how it looks without the plugin activated. I'm now going to activate the plugin, compile the component, and we'll come back looking at this again. Okay, so the plugin is already activated. I'm going to just select the component here and compile it with this plugin activated and targeting all components currently. And you might not want that. Sometimes you want components to have different versions, pro version and not pro version. And this is the type of feature you could play with around. Okay, so we've compiled it and I'm going to install it now, and then just go directly back to the code. Wait, before I do that, let me first go to the actual component here, and then let's go to Options. You'll see now there's a new tab, Dynamically Added. We didn't add this ourselves. It was added for us, and it has these options now. Export text only, and use strict permissions per field. So the user of your component can still deactivate this so that it behaves as before, or enable only partly, or both. And this would automatically function upon all views from here on. We are planning a feature to change it that you could target specific views, and probably even the option to target specific groups, but that's still far ahead in time. This is part of what we're talking about. We still want to see how is this feature celebrated, if it is actually that useful. Okay, so we have it set to activate all, save and close, and now let's go look at the code to see what has changed. So first of all, we go to the get items method, and we suddenly see a whole new set of permissions, which if the user doesn't meet, now this set of permissions is found in the form table as well, or the form area as well, but this adds an extra layer to make absolutely sure that the value never gets given out if the user doesn't have permission. So this is the extra permissions, strict permissions that's added. If the user doesn't have permission, it basically doesn't. Now, like I said, it is triggered by the global over here, strict permission per field. It gets it from the global scope of the component and activates it here within each loop of the items. So that's the extra layer of permission it adds, which it does automatically. And then if we get to the export, so let's go down here, the export method, we see that it's also added export text only, also grabbing it from the global parameters of the component. And here it is adding new queries so that the values are no longer just IDs, but actual names, like in this case a type, main member name, user name, okay. And then even here, after the values have been retrieved, we again have that permissional structure, actually making sure no data gets seeped out. And then down here, let me see, where is that? Here it is again. We do a export text only, and with the list fields that we have, not database values, but actual static values, we do the translation of those values as well. Like in this case, we change the count and we add it back into the value, so that in the table that eventually gets exported to the XML file, you only end up with text. Now that means it cannot be imported. It's only useful to export currently. We haven't added the import identifiers yet, but this is to get data out of the database and immediately be able to use it in a spreadsheet where it's more knowledgeable explanation to what the IDs refer to. Okay, so that's at the code level. In the front end, nothing changes much. You select the values you want to export, you click export, and as always, it just generates a XML value. You save it. And now we have the account language string here. We have the actual name of the user. Now this isn't the best demonstration, okay, but it gives you the idea that it actually translates the numbers, the IDs, to text. But the most important part of this feature is the extra layer of security that it adds to your components. Using this feature or this plugin would indeed make your site views very secure. If you open any of these site views, none of the values that get returned to this page can be circumvented. If you do not have permissions set by the administrator to view certain values, then there is no way that you will be able to view it, just simply because of that feature. Okay, well, that is the plugin that I realize we've added to JCB Pro membership quite a while ago, and I haven't actually come around to give a bit of an explanation of its functionality. Maybe some of you have tried it out and seen what it does, but those of you that were still waiting for me to say something about this, well, there you go. Hope this is helpful. Please, if you have any issues with this plugin or questions, you're welcome to open a post on the forum, or if there's any bugs, to let me know at GitHub. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care.